So let's drag it all the way down. And then I'm going to gradually drag it up so it's just tucked underneath the main vocal. So let's give that a go.
I wanna be free, yeah. It'll never be the same. I wanna be free, yeah. It'll never be the same.
There we go. So I've got that set at -9 dB for this. I'm using the VCA to control these channels here. So I've got it set at -9.
You're listening to the Inside the Mix podcast with your host, Mark Matthews.
Hello, folks, and welcome to the Inside the Mix podcast. If you are a new listener, make sure you hit follow wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit subscribe so you get notified of new episodes. And as always, to the returning listeners, a huge welcome back. So in episode 159, I went through one of my favorite music production techniques for vocals, which was using the Waves doubler. And I was also then trawling through my YouTube channel. And there is a video that I posted about 2, maybe 3 years ago. And it's a very crude video again, much like in episode 160, where I demonstrate how to quickly create a doubled vocal in Logic Pro without using any third-party plugins. This technique is particularly useful if you've got a vocal sample or maybe you've got a recording of a vocalist and you don't have any vocal stacks. So I've decided that I'm going to redo that video from several years ago. I'm going to improve it and flesh it out in this episode. And yeah, I'm in Logic Pro, but you can do this in any DAW. We're just creating a really basic vocal doubling effect. So let's dive in. Here we are in Logic Pro, and we are going to go from this.
I wanna be free, yeah. It'll never be the same.
To this.
I wanna be free, yeah. It'll never be the same.
So to begin, I've got one vocal track, and on that track is the vocal sample, and it sounds like this. So this is the complete dry vocal sample.
I wanna be free, yeah. It'll never be the same.
So then what I did is create 2 additional tracks. I've got Vox left and I've got Vox right. If you don't know how to create tracks in Logic Pro, you can just go up to track, new audio track, and then make sure snap to grid is on. It's on smart. And then I'm going to option drag this region, audio region, this vocal down to Vox left and down to Vox right. And if I play it now, effectively, I'm going to have the same vocal sample 3 times. So it's just going to sound louder.
I want to be free, yeah. It'll never be the same.
And that's not what we want. It's just making it sound louder, right? We could just push to the level if we did that. So what we're going to do is this. I am going to go to the beginning of the audio region with the playhead. I'm going to command right to zoom in because I want to see the waveform in greater detail. It's probably too far. And then I'm going to turn snap to grid off. Now you can do that at the top here in Logic Pro in the editor window, or you can just press Command G and it'll turn it off. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to slightly move these out of time because that's kind of what a singer would do, right? Or a guitarist or a musician. When they double track, the double is going to be slightly different to the original, which is how you get that luscious soundscape. It's particularly with vocals here. And I'm going to nudge the Vox left audio region slightly to the left. So I'm going to option and left with the keyboard to nudge to the left. And I'm going to do the opposite with the right. I'm going to option right. And that's nudging the Vox right to the right. So they're slightly out of sync now. They're slightly out of time. So that's nudge if you didn't know in Logic Pro. It's option, then direction arrow. So I'm going to command left to zoom out. And let's play this now. So with the left and right slightly out of time with the original.
I want to be free, yeah. It'll never be the same.
You can see it's dropped in level and there's some phasing issues going. Well, I say issues. There's some phasing going on there. So now what we're going to do is this. I'm going to go back to the beginning of this region with the playhead. I'm just going to drag to the left. And I'm just going to zoom out a touch more as well so I can see more of the audio region. What we're going to do now is I'm going to pan the Vox left. I'm going to pan that -45. So I'm going to use similar settings that I used in the Vox doubler in episode 159. And then I'm going to go 45 with the right. So I've got the Vox left is panned minus 45. Vox right is panned 45. So let's play it now.
I wanna be free. Yeah. It'll never be the same.
Listening to that, if you're listening with headphones, you could probably hear that the left sounds a bit louder than the right. So there's some phasing going on there. And actually, if I press X rather here, and then go to the multimeter and we play this, and we're looking at the correlation here. So I'm going to play it now. And the correlation, let's have a look and see what this does.
I wanna be free. Yeah. It'll never be the same.
Yeah, it's kind of jumping around the middle there. So maybe too much in terms of phasiness going on. So I'm actually going to reduce this, the left and right. I'm going to go to minus 25 and I'm going to go to plus 25 and see how that sounds. See if that's an improvement.
I wanna be free. Yeah. It'll never be the same.
Yeah, I think that does sound better. In the grand scheme of things, this isn't going to be as loud, or these left and rights aren't going to be as loud as the center vocal anyway. But looking at the correlation meter as well, we're not dipping into that out of phase-ness on the correlation meter. So I'm happy with that as it is. So we're going to go minus 25 and plus 25 rather than minus 45 and plus 45 like we did in the vocal doubler. Then on each one of these tracks, I'm going to use the pitch shifter plugin. So I'm going to enable it. So on the left, and I'm going to use the default of vocal doubler. And I'm going to drag that. I'm actually going to drag it to minus 7. I like to use between like minus 5 and minus 7. So I'm going to do minus 7 in cents. So minus 7 in cents. So I'm not using semitones. And I'm going to boost the mix all the way up to 100%. All the way up to 100% on this. And I'm going to do the opposite on the other one, on Vox right. So on this pitch shifter, I'm going to go to vocal doubler. And I'm going to drag it to 7 cents. And then I'm going to do 100% in terms of mix. So now let's play this.
I wanna be free. Yeah. It'll never be the same.
Cool. It's getting to how I want it to be. It's getting there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight Vox left and Vox right because I want discrete control over both channels at the same time. And I'm going to go to options and I'm going to create a new VCA, a voltage controlled amplifier. And I'm going to use this to control the level of Vox left and Vox right, this doubling effect basically. So I'm going to rename this to Vox, I'm going to call it Vox dub. There we are. And I'm going to drag this all the way down because at the moment, this doubling effect that I've created is at the same level as the lead vocal, which is not how I want it to be. So let's drag it all the way down. And then I'm going to gradually drag it up so it's just tucked underneath the main vocal. So let's give that a go.
I wanna be free. Yeah. It'll never be the same. I wanna be free. Yeah. It'll never be the same.
There we go. So I've got that set at minus 9 dB for this. I'm using the VCA to control these channels here. So I've got it set at minus 9. And that sounds pretty good to me. Now, ultimately, you could play around with the pitch, the sense in the pitch shifter. You could play around with the nudge of the audio regions themselves. You could play around with the panning. But basically, those are the core settings for this doubler effect. You have a left and right. You pan them left and right. And then you use the pitch shifter. And then you just blend in what you have with the original audio. And the beauty of using a VCA, and I don't use them enough, is that if you have discrete groups for like drums, bass, pads, vocals, guitars, you can actually control the level of individual instruments in different groups, which is the cool thing about a VCA. Don't use them enough. And you can automate the level of a VCA as well. You can just right click on it and then create track, and you can automate that level of that doubling effect in Logic Pro. So again, let's play it. I'm going to play it without the doubling effect, and then I'll play it with.
I wanna be free. Yeah. It'll never be the same.
And this is with.
I wanna be free. Yeah. It'll never be the same.
In fact, let's quickly check it with the multimeter. Let's check this, the correlation meter. So I'm going to play it now and have a look at the correlation meter.
I wanna be free. Yeah. It'll never be the same.
Yeah, it's all good. I mean, I wouldn't hold that as gospel, but I think it's good to check the correlation meter when you're doing things like this. When you're duplicating audio regions, instruments, and then you're processing them like this. It's always good to check correlation because you don't want some weird phasey shit going on. So always a good one to check. But there we go, folks. A quick recap. I think I did a recap just now, but I'll do it again. We had Vox 1, which was our main lead vocal with the audio region. 2 additional tracks, left and right. We option drag the audio region down onto those additional tracks. Command G to turn off snap to grid. Then we used option left and right to nudge those tracks left and right. Then we panned them left and right. In the end, I settled for -25 and +25 because I felt it was too phasey, some weird shit going on when I had it -45 and +45. Pitch shifter, I used a vocal doubler preset. I probably don't need to use the preset, to be honest. Sense, -7 on the left, 100% mix, +7 on the right, 100% mix. Created a VCA, had the VCA controlling the overall level of the doubler effect, and dragged that up until it was tucked underneath the main vocal, and we got to -9 dB. And there we go, a quick way to create a vocal doubling effect in any DAW. So I hope you found this tip useful, and if you did, I would love to hear from you. I want to include your review or feedback of an episode on Inside the Mix. So you can click the link in the episode description. It's a SpeakPipe link, and you can record a quick, less than 30 seconds audio review. Why you enjoyed the episode, why you would recommend it. It doesn't have to be this one, it could be any episode. Give yourself a shout out. Who are you? Where can the audience find you online, social media handles, and or your website? So not only will you feature on the podcast itself and forever be part of the podcast, each month, those who enter or submit audio and audio review and feature on the podcast, I will enter your name into a virtual tombola, and I will pick a name out of this tombola. I think it's a tombola. Either way, I'll pick your name out of a hat, and you will have the opportunity to win a Starbucks coffee voucher. And if you don't like coffee, give it to someone else and pretend you bought it for them. You're doing a good thing. Don't tell them it came from me. Anyway, folks, so click that link in the episode description. I cannot wait to hear from you and your episode recommendations.